in the last stream, we were working on automating the production and sifting of overworld matter and using that to automatically generate a bunch of resources such as iron, gold, osmium, lead, uranium, redstone, diamonds, lapis, etc. We get a ton of stuff from sifting overworld matter. Now, between streams, what I've gone ahead and done is I've built a third sphere to the base. So over here we have the exact same sphere, once again, still made out of wood because we are a little light on glass, and as of right now, we're also very light on sand. In fact, we're out of both red sand and regular sand, despite the fact that we are still making it up on the surface over there. We're just sifting it faster than it's coming in. So right now, we're still building out of wood, but essentially what I've done is I've moved over all of the thermal expansion machines out of this sphere, including the pulverizer and redstone furnace that we set up at the end of the last stream, and brought those over into the new sphere. So for now, this is kind of our thermal sphere. We still have the pulverizer, redstone furnace, and gravel oak drawer. Between streams, I have tweaked this system a little bit. Initially, we had copper chunks being exported, and for a while, I did leave it that way. Long enough, actually, to where we filled up the copper drawer with 2,048 ingots and started to back up on copper ingots in the disk drive. And so to try and mitigate that, I have made our first tier 5 storage upgrade here, an emerald storage upgrade to increase the capacity of our storage drawer. The reason that I went for the emerald upgrade is that it's the best upgrade you can make, and after our excursion in the sea moth, we do have quite a few emeralds, 37 now, left over. And right now, we don't really have too much to do with them. And so I figured we might go ahead and make a couple of these upgrades for some of the different drawers that we're going to be using a lot of. For example, iron is what we're making now. So right now we have iron chunks being exported. In fact, I think we've actually worked through the entire backlog of iron chunks. And so we now do have 416 iron ready to use today. And so I think actually I might go ahead and do gold next. We'll throw the gold chunk into the exporter and get those gold chunks processing into gold ingots. Of course, eventually we are going to want to have all of our ingots being processed at the same time, but for now, we don't really have the capacity to do more than just one at any given time. Over here, we do have our induction smelter and our multi-servo press. I've also brought back over the blast chiller. This is the guy that we were using to make both ice and originally obsidian. And between streams, I have re-engaged the obsidian making function here using the universal pipe. So basically, I did have to move this ladder, by the way, to make room for this new corridor. But down here, we have refined storage cabling going over to the exporter on the back of the pulverizer. And we also have universal pipe here that is carrying both power and lava from the left sphere over there over this way. The power, of course, goes to all of the machines. And then over here, because we have the bottom set to input, this is also receiving lava as well. So all of the lava that's being generated for our magmatic dynamo is also usable by our blast chiller. And so as we can see, if we shift right click on this drawer, we do now have 340 obsidian ready to use. And that is going to come in extremely useful because, especially as we automate more and more, we're going to want to make more and more of our drawers here into void drawers so that any excess items that we generate are deleted automatically and we don't end up clogging up our disk drive. That's not really what I want to work on today, though, so I'll throw those away for now. We'll come back to that, I think, in the future. What I want to work on in today's stream is getting the mob spawner up and running using this blaze spawner that we collected from the nether in the last stream. I also do want to work on a few other things. I'd like to try and get a little bit of plastic today as well from industrial foregoing. For this, we are going to have to make a pyrolyzer to process rubber into cured rubber and dry rubber, both of which are required to make plastic, which is what we need to make most of the machine frames going forward. You'll see that the pity machine frame requires plastic. That machine frame is then needed to make the symbol machine frame, which also requires plastic. And then that is needed to make other machine frames, such as the machine frame from RF Tools Base, which is used to make some of the more advanced machines that we're going to unlock later on in the playthrough. So plastic is going to be a key component that we're going to want to automate the production of sooner rather than later. But again, that's something that we'll get into, I think, further on in today's stream. The first thing that I want to work on is going to the Twilight Forest. The reason for that is that if we're going to automate this blaze spawner here, we're going to need a way of killing the blazes automatically, right? We can put the blaze spawner down, but unless we have a way to kill them automatically, the blaze spawner is kind of useless. So thankfully, we do have a mod installed called Mob Grinding Utilities, and this mob adds the Mop Mesher, which can be enchanted and can be used to kill mobs. And the even better part is that, as it says in the tooltip here, mobs mesh do count as player kill. So we should get blaze rods from killing mobs with the Mop Mesher, and then we can use those blaze rods to make both blaze powder and also the molten blaze, which we need to get Eyes of Ender, which we can use for a whole host of things, most notably making the miniaturization projection field, which allows us to get into compact machines. But essentially, the reason we're going to the Twilight Forest is that in order to get blazes from the spawner to the Mop Mesher, we have to be able to push them in some way, shape, or form. And again, thankfully, the Mob Grinding Utilities mod adds a mob fan, which we can use to push mobs in a certain direction. However, by default, this fan is not particularly great. It's very easy to make. It needs a block of redstone, 4 iron, and then 4 stone slabs. It would appear that we are out of regular stone. That is fine. I don't have my furnaces down, although we do have 18 of those ready to go in the system here. Let's just quickly do one of those and one of those. And 2 stone later, we can make the stone slabs. And so that should be everything for the fan here. So these are pretty basic machines. Essentially, if I drop one of these down and I give it a redstone signal, it will push any entity, including me, I believe about 6 blocks away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, I think it pushes me about 6 blocks away, which is fine. However, you'll notice it doesn't work in that large of an area. If I stand like here, for example, it doesn't push me forward. And of course, if we're going to get a box that we can put our mob spawner into, we're going to want all of the blazes in that room to be pushed to one centralized point, and that one centralized point is going to be the Mop Mesher. This guy is a little bit more expensive, again requiring a block of redstone there, with 2 iron spikes, 1 block of iron, 2 iron swords, and 3 diamonds. We do have the diamonds now, and thankfully, now that we have that pulverizer and redstone furnace set up, we do have more than enough iron here to make all of this happen. I think if we're going to make the spikes, yeah, we need 6 more iron swords here. 1, 2, 3, and then of all things, it is sticks that we are out of. Thankfully, we do have that oak wood coming in from our hopping botany pot. 4, 5, and 6. Iron spike 1. Iron spike 2. And Mob Mesher. Nice. So the idea here is that we want all of the mobs to get pushed to the Mob Mesher. The Mob Mesher does also require a redstone signal. In my experience, the easiest way to do that is by placing it on top of a block of redstone. So obviously when we get this down in our actual mob spawner, we're going to put the block of redstone underneath the Mob Mesher. However, I do not want to break my glass, and so for the purpose of explanation here, we'll just do one of these. You'll see that works, and you'll see that it does deal damage. So the idea is we want to push all of the mobs towards the Mob Mesher. They will then take damage, they will die, and then we can collect their wares and deposit them into storage drawers. However, like I mentioned, the fan here by default doesn't cover a very large area. However, we can make these fan upgrades up here, specifically where after the fan width upgrade that we can use to increase the range that the fan, or increase the area that the fan covers. Now, the one problem with this recipe is that it requires 3 feathers, and as of right now, we have a grand total of 0 feathers. So there are a few ways you can go about doing this. We could, if we wanted to, go through the animals questline here, the very first quest of which, after this tick box quest, is a quest to make chicken bait. And essentially, chicken bait is something that's going to allow you to get chickens to spawn near your base. However, the Twitch chat did point out that there is also a quest for us to head through to the Twilight Forest. And there are quite a few mobs in the Twilight Forest, both chickens, crows, and a few others, that we can kill in order to get feathers maybe a bit more quickly. So in order to get to the Twilight Forest, we have to set up this portal right here. It is a 2x2 pool of water surrounded by small flowers, either dandelions or poppies. We do have neither of those. However, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can use saplings for this. That might have changed in a newer version of the pack. I'm actually not entirely certain, but let me try this here. If we take some dirt, and if we take some saplings, can we make this work? We're not going to know if it works until we drop a block in. If we read the quest here, it says, throwing a shining diamond block into a pool of water with small flowers around, as shown, will create a portal to the Twilight Forest. So, in order for this to work, we do have to make a shining block of diamond. This is made by smelting a regular block of diamond. Thankfully, now that we have that overworld matter automated, we are getting quite a lot of diamonds quite quickly. This does need to be smelted in the solar cooker, of all things. Thankfully, we do still have that set up. I should definitely turn that fan off before I progress though here. If we drop that in, is that going to work? So that is working. It wasn't working a moment ago because it was raining, so it doesn't work, unfortunately, in the rain. Also, side note, it does take 150 seconds, which is about 2.5 minutes there, for this to complete, so it is going to take a minute for that to finish up. But while that does its thing, we can go and begin setting up the portal here for the Twilight Forest. So let's, I guess, head on over to the new sphere here, and let's set up maybe a temporary portal right about here. So we'll do this and this. And then, like I said, I think you can surround this with saplings. And ideally, in approximately 1 minute, once this block of diamond is done, we can drop it into the water and we should be able to head on through to the Twilight Forest. At which point we do also, I believe, unlock the ability to buy the scale here to protect us against the toxic air. The downside here is that we still don't have enough C-Bucks to buy it, and we have been spending our C-Bucks quite liberally recently, and we're down to just 64, and the quest here does want 200 C-Bucks if we're going to actually purchase the scale. We do have a couple of quests, especially up in the basic crops quest line here. We'll go ahead and claim all of those right away. We actually had 38 C-Bucks worth of quests just waiting to be claimed. That does take us over halfway to buying the scale, but we're still 98 C-Bucks short. All right, this is done. This shining block of diamond. Let's see if this works. Can I do this? No. Twitch chat is telling me I need dirt on the bottom here. This is, of course, going to look a little horrible inside, but let's see, does that work? It totally does. Nice. Okay, so you do need to have dirt underneath the 2x2 body of water, but once that's done, we can just pop on right into that portal, and that's going to take us straight on through to the Twilight Forest. So there are a couple of benefits to being here. One, of course, is that there are mushrooms here that we can take for future use. Also, we can just mine here. Like, we can dig down, and there are ores in this world, so we could just dig down and mine here like we would in any kind of normal Minecraft world. I'm starting to think I maybe should have brought some torches with me as well, because it is rather dark here. We could also look at using something like the digital miner from Mechanism to mine out ores here as well in the future. That could be a way that we generate resources going forward. The Twitch chat has pointed out that we do have mining fatigue 5, which is less than ideal. So although there are ores here, it's a little tricky to utilize that. I do think that in the store, we can buy vitamins, which offer protection from mining fatigue. That is quite expensive. I don't know if that's a permanent fix or a temporary one. If it's temporary, that's very expensive. And also, we don't even have it unlocked yet. But either way, the reason that we are here is that we would like to find something along the lines of a chicken, maybe a crow, or a raven. Something that we can kill to acquire a feather or two. Okay, so not too long later, we are back here in the overworld. The reason for that is that it turns out there are no chickens in the Twilight Forest. We did manage to kill a few ravens, but the ravens dropped raven feathers, which are not the feathers that we're after. So, not a complete waste of time. We do need the Twilight Forest, and we are going to have to head through if we're going to complete more of these Twilight Forest quests in the future. And the Twilight Forest does have a couple of resources that we are going to have to get in the future to complete the pack and get some of the late game quest rewards. Of course, I keep coming up into this bottom door down here, but I can no longer actually use that because there are cables blocking my entrance, which is why I did cut one of the fences out up here. So, given the Twilight Forest didn't work, we're going to have to resort back to Plan A, which was chicken bait. So real quick, let me grab some cooked apples and throw those in my backpack so it can continue to feed me. And if we're going to make chicken bait, we need 3 wheat seeds and 3 wheat, which we almost have. We're just missing 1 wheat seed, thankfully. If we once again grab our watering can and our hoe, we should be able to get more wheat seeds fairly quickly. So let's throw those in like so and get the chicken bait. If we refer back to the quest book here, the first quest does say, make a nice area to spawn mobs in. Lots of trees, plants, grass blocks, dirt, tall grass, and flowers should do the trick around a 5x5 area. Then the chicken bait quest says, place the bait in the world, make sure you have lots of grass, trees, and plants to create a good area for the mobs to spawn. So if we go ahead and grab some grass, which we actually don't have. Let's grab some more dirt though, at least 25. And between streams, I did add a new strainer to our strainer base here. And so we have managed to acquire a little bit more seagrass. And just like before, if we take that seagrass and drop it into water, it turns into regular grass. And then from there, if we take that regular grass and craft it with dirt, we get grass blocks. So what I'm thinking here is maybe if we head on over in this direction, what we can do is we can drop down a grass block. We can then begin to surround that with dirt, preferably making at least a 5x5 platform here. And then using the watering can, we can actually spread the grass faster. Of course, the grass will spread on its own if we just leave this here. Eventually, all of this dirt will become grass. However, if we take the watering can, make sure it's filled up by right-clicking in the water, you can then shift right-click onto the grass to increase the speed at which that grass spreads to the dirt blocks that surround it. So I think if you put this down, it says place more blocks from the animal's home in home biome here. So by default, this isn't doing anything because there's no home biome things around here. So let's do maybe like 3 trees, and we'll sprint back and forth to make those grow nice and quick. We can then bone meal the grass here. That's going to get us both tall grass and flowers as well. And then we'll leave this area in the middle empty. If I drop down the chicken bit now, the bit will work in this environment. Move out of range so you don't scare the animal away. So now all we need to do is just move away here. And I think what I might do is I might try and capture the chicken. If we can trap the chicken, we do have a mod installed that allows the chickens to drop feathers passively. As it mentioned in this quest, chickens can lay eggs and drop feathers without being killed. So if we get ourselves just a regular old Minecraft hopper and maybe a 2x1 storage drawer, that being one of these right here that can hold 2 items, we could try and capture the chicken, maybe in some kind of glass box, and then place a hopper underneath it to collect the eggs and feathers automatically over time. I think I just saw it appear before our very eyes. So it is in here. We do have to try and get it, maybe, so okay, so there's 2 options here. We can try and box it in. This is going to be awkward, so I was going to say we can try and box it in without moving it, but obviously that's not going to work because we need to put a hopper down. So we put the hopper down. Let's see if we can't push the chicken kind of just over the hopper. And then if we could surround that chicken with glass. It's possible. And then you do temporarily as well some stone here just to be safe. That should work. And then now, even though it looks extremely janky, if we go ahead and do something like this, I think what we should see over time is we should see phantoms spawning in because we've not slept in 3 nights, but we'll also see that chicken developing feathers and eggs and depositing those feathers and eggs into the hopper beneath it, which should then get pumped through into the storage drawer. So I have no idea how long this is going to take. Hopefully not too long. While we wait though, we can pivot over and take a look at producing plastic, something I mentioned earlier in the stream. So to advance forward, we do need quite a bit of the plastic here. We needed to make a bunch of the core machine frames for some of the advanced blocks and items. Now to make it, we need 6 cured rubber and 3 dry rubber per 2 regular plastic. Both the cured and the dry rubber are made in the pyrolyzer, which in and of itself isn't too difficult to make. We do need to get 1 blaze rod to make it happen. that could prove difficult, but before we get to the pyrolyzer stage, we first have to get rubber, and a rubber we get in a fractionating still with latex, and latex is where we're going to start here. There are two ways that we can make latex. One is in the multi-servo press using either vines or dandelions. We could, if we wanted to, try and automate the production of vines using leaves, and then, turn those into latex, and then use that latex to make plastic. Alternatively, there's also the Arboreal Extractor here, which is a machine that doesn't require any power whatsoever, unlike the multi-servo press, and does the same job. It produces the latex so long as you place it down near a tree. Specifically, in this mod pack, if we're going to get the latex, we have to put the Arboreal Extractors down next to a jungle tree. So the Arboreal Extractor itself is actually fairly easy to make. It's 4 planks, 1 iron gear, 1 bucket, 2 glass, and then 1 redstone servo. The redstone servo we have made before. The only thing we're missing is a diamond gear, and as luck would have it, we do have a multi-servo press over in our new thermal sphere, just waiting to make that diamond gear. Boom, and boom. And at that point, I think we're basically good to go. Oh, we need 1 iron gear as well. Now, we'll start with 1, although I think it's quite possible that we are going to want to have multiple of these Arboreal Extractors working simultaneously to really maximize the amount of latex that we're producing. For now, though, just to get the ball rolling, let's head on back over to our crafting grid, and boom, we have the Arboreal Extractor. From there, all we should have to do is grab 4 jungle saplings. We can take some bone meal to make it a little faster, as well as some dirt. And I think for now, we will probably do this. I'm kind of tempted to do it over there, but I don't want to get rid of that portal because that would be a waste of a diamond block. So I guess we're going to do this over here. Okay, so I've expanded this out a little bit. We can now more easily walk over to the chicken area. The chicken has produced its first egg there, which is very promising. Hopefully we'll start getting feathers fairly soon. Over here, though, I was originally going to put down 4 saplings and make a really big jungle tree. However, it would, at that point, not be symmetrical. Like, this platform has, like, a center block. It doesn't really work with the too wide tree. So for now, we're going to go with a regular 1 sapling setup. In the future, should we need more latex, we could maybe look at either adding more trees or setting up a bigger 2x2 tree in a space that's kind of custom built for it. But essentially, once you have the tree, all you have to do is take your Arboreal Extractor and place it down up against the bottom of the tree. If the lights come on the front of the Arboreal Extractor, it's working. For whatever reason, there's no indication inside the extractor that it's working, but if we wait here for just a second, we should see our first 50 millibuckets of latex appear in the Arboreal Extractor's internal tank. And so now, going forward, we can take that latex and pump it through into the fractionating still to turn it into actual rubber. So in order to make the fractionating still, we need 2 copper, 1 machine frame, 1 redstone flux coil, 1 glass, and then 2 invar gears. I think the only thing that we are missing here is the 2 invar gears, and in fact, we already have 1 of those invar gears, and we also have 44 invar ready to go as well. And so if we just throw that 4 invar in the old multi-servo press, boom, and boom, we get a fractionating still. Nice. Now, I'm beginning to think that maybe I should move my sapling, actually, because we probably want to put the fractionating still in our thermal sphere, and we probably want to put it right about there. That way we can put the pyrolyzer right next to it, and we could maybe pump down the latex into the top of this fractioning still. So, in fact, I might build a bit more of a platform up there and move the Arboreal Extractor and the jungle sapling somewhere closer to up here, so we can just kind of pump down directly into that fractionating still. So I've moved the Arboreal Extractor, and that does remind me I should probably put down some torches as well here on the new platform so we don't get any mobs spawning. But I've moved the jungle tree and the Arboreal Extractor over closer to this thermal sphere. We've then run a fluid pipe out of the side, which need to make sure that is set to extract. That then runs around down into a tank. The reason it has to go into a tank there is because these pipes don't break the block that they're in, so they actually just end up being waterlogged, which means that it doesn't actually stop the water from flowing. So if we didn't put a tank there, the water would just flow down into the base, which is, of course, not what we are after. And so we have a bit of a buffer tank right about here that's going to store all of the latex. And then again, if we just set this to extract as well, that latex should move down into the fractionating still. We did manage to get 1 bucket of latex from the previous Arboreal Extractor before we picked it up, so I'll just dump that in there as well. That's going to make its way down into here. And so now all we need to do is get some more universal cable, and we can use that to hook up the fractionating still to power. So that is now hooked up. We did have to get rid of the ladder, so I might move that over elsewhere so we can still get down to the lower level should we need to. But this is working. The latex is being processed. We should get our first rubber here any minute now. We now need to get the pyrolyzer, and for that we are going to have to get a blaze rod, which currently we do not have. Although I'm actually pretty sure that we should be able to make one here. We do have 22 blaze powder in our system, and we can make a blaze rod by pulling molten blaze over a rod cast, and we can use a sand rod cast if we don't want to commit 2 gold to making a regular rod cast. And the molten blaze we can get simply by putting our blaze powder inside of a multi-servo press. Now, if we were going to move the molten blaze with a bucket, we would need 1,000 millibuckets, which would be 50 molten blaze, which is quite a bit. We, of course, don't want to have to use 50 blaze powder in order to do this. We could get 50 blaze powder if we wanted to by sifting more crushed netherrack, but a better solution is going to be to use the bucket mode here with the basic fluid tank. So I don't know if we've showed this off before, but over in here, if we go to if type in mechanism and then go category, there is an item mode switch key. By default, it's set to N. So if we hold the bucket and hit N here, you'll see in the bottom left, it changes the bucket mode to on or off. If we change it to on, you can use the basic fluid tank like a bucket that can hold up to 14 buckets worth of fluid. So I think if we take out the gear working die and we put in a blaze powder, that's going to produce molten blaze. From there, if we just right click on the multi-servo press with the basic fluid tank, you'll see that we now have 20 millibuckets of molten blaze in that tank. And so if we take that over to our smeltery, and I think just right click onto a drain here, that's going to put that molten blaze into the smeltery. How much molten blaze do we need to make 1 blaze rod? The answer is 100 millibuckets. So we need to do 4 more blaze powder over in the multi-servo press, and that's going to get us the 100 millibuckets of molten blaze that we need in order to make our first blaze rod. So once again, we'll right click that in. That takes us up to 100 millibuckets. So now we need to grab some cobblestone. We need a sand cast. Apparently, just a stick is all we need. And boom, that's our first blaze rod, which should appear in here any second now. And I'm pretty sure after we get that, we should have basically everything to make this pyrolyzer here. We have the netherrack, so we can make nether brick. We do have some constantan, so we can throw that into the multi-servo press with the gear working die. And I think we should once again have pretty much everything that we need to make another machine frame here. We totally do. Nice. So let's quickly smelt up those nether bricks and get those constantan gears cooking, and we should have everything it takes. And not too long later, the pyrolyzer. Nice. So we'll take that and we will drop it down right about here. We will make sure that the fractionating still is set to export on the right and has auto output enabled. We'll make sure the pyrolyzer is set to input on the left there. And so hopefully that should send the rubber over with auto input enabled. And there we go. So this, I believe, is working. It is very, very slow, but it's getting there. And basically at this point, all we should have to do is once again grab another one of these 1x2 drawers. And if we place that above the pyrolyzer, we can set the top to export, again, auto output on. And whenever the cured rubber and the dry rubber is made, it should be ejected into this drawer, which is going to be able to hold up to 1,024 of each of them. And because we don't need to do anything to get more latex, this system should just keep working. And much like with our obsidian over here, we should just continue to get more passive rubber, which is going to build up until we need it, at which point we can come over and begin using it to make plastic. All right, so it is a new day. It's been a whole day since the first part of today's episode. And so over here, we can see that our plastic production has now started to back up, we actually have a bunch of cured rubber and a bunch of dry rubber as well. And this tank right here is filling up on latex. But even more important than that is that over here, we do now have a ton of eggs and feathers ready to go. Now, one thing that I did forget about the way that these storage drawers work is that the storage drawers don't hold a set amount. I think I said earlier in the series that a regular storage drawer, that being this guy right here, can hold up to 2,048 of any given item. That's not strictly true. While they can hold up to 2,048 of most items, what it actually does is holds 32 stacks of whatever item you put in, as you can see in the tooltip here. So with a normal item that can stack up to 64, you can then put up to 2,048 into a regular drawer. However, with something like eggs that only stack in sets of 16, the maximum for that would be 512 for a regular drawer and 256 for a 1x2 drawer like this. And so what has happened here is between streams, this chicken has been pooping out eggs. And if we look into this hopper, the hopper has now banked up on eggs because the storage drawer as well is also full on eggs. And so real quick here, even though we don't really need more than 170 eggs or however many eggs we currently have in that drawer, I feel like we might as well quickly whip up a void upgrade. Not only is that going to allow us to get even more feathers going forward, but more importantly than that, it's also going to stop excess eggs and excess feathers from backing up on here and just causing unnecessary lag in the future. For now though, we'll grab 64 feathers, and these are going to be super useful for us today because now we can actually set up this mob spawner. So the plan here, I think, is probably going to be to set up a new sphere, the fourth sphere, which we're going to put, of course, over in this direction, down this corridor. And then in that sphere, we're going to have one mob fan. Then mob fan is going to be outfitted with a couple of fan upgrades, specifically the width upgrades, which we can now make because we do have these feathers. It does say you can put up to 3 into any given machine. My assumption here is that each new upgrade that you add will increase the width by 1 either side. So if we turn this on, right now it just works in front like that. If we add 1 width upgrade, I assume it now works here as well. It does. If we add 2, I then assume it's going to start working here. It does. And if we add a third, we should now effectively have a 7x6 area of fan action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new sphere, much like these. And for now, I will take those upgrades out and turn the fan off just so we don't get pushed accidentally into the Mop Mesher. But we're going to set up a brand new sphere like this. And then in that sphere, we're going to build a 7x7 area with the fan here right at the back and the Mob Mesher right at the front. And then we're going to use this fan to push mobs forward with the upgrades in. And then I think we probably want to get 2 more fans. The idea behind these 2 extra fans, which do require a few more stone slabs, however, we did smelt up quite a bit of stone earlier in the episode here, so I'll quickly grab 2 more of those. The idea of these is that we can put these, for example, here and here. That way, any mobs that end up getting pushed down like this will then get pushed directly into the Mop Mesher. That's the plan. And again, the Mop Mesher in the actual spawner is going to be 1 lower down as well, so that mobs always get pushed into it. Someone has pointed out in the Twitch chat that I am blind, and there is a button here that says show area that I completely did not see. But yeah, as you can see here, we do have now a 7x6 area within which the fan does work. If we wanted to, we could make height and distance upgrades to increase both the height of the fan's area and also the depth as well, if we really wanted to. But for now, I think this is going to be just fine, and we can move on to building out the new dome here with our copy-paste gadget. So we've been doing a little bit of oakwood tree farming here to get some more planks to build the new wooden sphere. However, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, we are out of glass, and we're also out of the sand that we could use to smelt glass because all of our sand is being instantly sifted into other items. And so I think it's probably about time to look at improving the way that we generate sand, because right now, whilst this block breaker is doing its job, it is very, very, very slow. And so people have been recommending for a little while now that I invest in an Igneous Extruder. This is another machine from Thermal Expansion. Much like the Arboreal Extractor, it's a machine that doesn't actively consume power, but if you provide it with both lava and water, it should be able to make sand for us. So the only thing that we're missing here is 2 pieces of glass, which, again, we don't have just yet, but what we can do is we can come up here and manually mine 2 pieces of sand, throw those in there. That's going to get us the sand. The only other things we're missing are the redstone server and a Constantan gear. Do we have Constantan? We do not. However, we do have copper, and we also do have nickel. We can then throw 4 Constantan into there. That's going to get us the gear. I believe we were also missing a diamond gear, so I'll quickly grab 1, 2, 3, 4 diamonds. And we also needed another 1 of those red alloy ingots. So for that, once again, copper, iron, and redstone. Copper, iron, and 1, 2, 3, 4 redstone. So boom, there's a redstone server. And then the only thing we're missing then is the 2 glass, which we do have ready to go. And boom. So the Igneous Extruder generates various types of stone, requires an adjacent lava source, and cooling. So this might have changed. It used to be that you had to pump items into here. However, it looks like in the new version, you just place the blocks adjacent to each other. And I think that in this pack, the Igneous Extruder has also been tweaked to produce certain blocks depending on what's underneath it. So here, if we put it down, let me disable this real quick. We'll turn this to run with redstone signal. So the block breaker is off. If I break this sand and put this here, does that work? I think that does work. I think all we have to do is move this water 1 block over. Like if I do that, and then I do this is producing sand, and you'll see it's producing sand a lot faster than it was previously as well. The one downside here is that it doesn't produce red sand. That is something we can fix by putting red sandstone under a different Igneous Extruder. Right now, is there anything we get from red sand that we don't get from regular sand? I think the answer is yes. Red sand gives us nickel, copper, and cinnabar. Regular sand gives us tin, niter, and nickel. So we don't get cinnabar and we don't get copper. The cinnabar, we don't really need too much of. The copper is the main thing that we're missing. I think for now that's probably fine. We do have, I think, like 3,000 copper down in our storage door. So for now, I think we can get away with this. Going forward, we are definitely going to want to invest in another Igneous Extruder, hopefully fairly soon, so that we can get red sand coming in again. But for the purpose of today's stream, let's just do this. Let's grab our configurator. Let's make sure you are set to black. And let's make sure you're also set to extract. So that's going to pull all the sand out. We'll take 45 sand here, and we'll get that smelting up for the sphere. But yeah, we should now have more than enough sand to get this this new mob spawning sphere up and running. Okay, so not too long later, and we now have our 5th sphere, our 4th wooden sphere. But in here, what I've done is I've kind of marked out the area that I actually want to use for the spawner, and that is this 7x7 area here, including the stone. The area in the middle is where we're going to try and get some cursed earth. So, or in this pack, it's actually not called cursed earth, it is called dreadful dirt. So dreadful dirt is very similar to cursed earth from previous mod packs and previous Minecraft versions, in that once it's down, it will rapidly spawn mobs, and those regular mobs, not just blazes. So my plan here is to kind of have a multi-purpose spawning room, a room that can spawn both blazes to give us blaze powder for the Eyes of Ender, but also a room that could potentially spawn Endermen and creepers and zombies and spiders, etc., so that we can get the Ender pearls to make those Eyes of Ender as well. So the way that you get this dreadful dirt is you right-click a rotten egg onto dirt, and you'll see it says creates a 5x5 area of dreadful dirt used on grass, dirt, mycelium, or farmland. So if we can get this rotten egg, we can right-click it in the middle here, and it will make this 5x5 area of dirt into dreadful dirt. We're then going to put the blaze spawner, maybe here as well, in the room, and at that point, we want to get our fans, which we do have over in here. Let's grab this one for the back wall, and then these two for the side walls. Now, the way that I've set it up, I do think we are going to need a couple of distance upgrades as well. previously we just made the width upgrades, but I think we also want to grab a couple of these fan distance upgrades, which again, thankfully are not too difficult to make. You can put up to 10 of those in. I don't think we're quite going to need 10, but my plan here is to put one fan right at the back, like this, but preferably facing forward, like this. Drop a lever on the back there. And, we might end up putting a redstone block under here, actually, because chat has pointed out, of course, that it's quite plausible that blazes could spawn in this area. My plan, by the way, is to build this wall up to the top, so we have just this box inside. But then this area around here is an area where blazes could possibly spawn in. And, of course, given that blazes are made out of fire and do shoot fireballs, it's probably not the best idea to have them in a wooden sphere. So what I'm thinking I might do is I might build this wall up and then fill in this area outside here with water to stop the blazes spawning anywhere but inside this, 7x7 cube. That would mean that this this lever would break. And so to activate the mob fan, what we'll probably do is just put a block of redstone underneath it. But for now, just for testing purposes, let's do this and let's do this. If we show the working area, how does that look? That looks okay, but I think we're going to need yet more distance upgrades again, because I kind of want the distance there to go all the way forward to maybe like here. I'm kind of thinking of putting the Mop Mesher here and then putting some dark glass. And by dark glass, I mean Tinted Glass, which is another item from Mob Grinding Utilities. This is a glass block which is designed to prevent light and is tough enough to withstand a wither blast. So thankfully, super easy to make, 4 glass and 5 coal or charcoal. And this is essentially glass that we can see through, but that doesn't allow light to pass through. So we'll be able to see if mobs are spawning and what mobs are spawning behind the glass here, but it won't let any light through and therefore won't prevent any mobs from spawning. Obviously, though, that does mean that we have to get, I think, maybe 3 more distance upgrades to allow the mob fan to really push mobs all the way to the Mob Mesher here. That does work, because that pushes them all the way over there. It does create a slight secondary issue for us, though, because, of course, we need a fan here, and we also need a fan here to prevent mobs from kind of getting stuck in this area. We want the mobs to get pushed to the middle. And there's also still a possibility that they kind of get stuck, like, here on the edge. So what we might also want to do, potentially, just to really make sure that all of our mobs get to the Mob Mesher, we might also want to invest in a few of these entity conveyors. These essentially allow us to push the mobs ever so gently into the Mob Mesher. If we just do something like this and like this, it will just kind of push them right up against it. We could, of course, if we wanted to, have filled this entire floor with entity conveyors, but then we wouldn't have had space to put down the dreadful dirt, which kind of negates most of the point of the spawner. So back over here, we'll make some tinted glass. It's possible we might have to smelt up even more glass here because we are going to need a fair bit of this. We need 9 to go here. We'll leave a gap for now so we can still get in and out. But then we also are probably going to want to put 9 up at the top there to not allow light in from the roof. And we're also probably going to want to maybe replace this. Although in fairness, I think given that we're not going to be in here too often, we can probably just replace this with smooth stone. Okay, so I've filled in the smooth stone walls, and I've also placed some tinted glass up in the roof there. And over here is kind of what we're going to do with the fans. We're going to put a block of redstone underneath them to allow them to turn on without the lever in the back. So we'll do the same thing over here as well. We'll put down a block of redstone right about there. And then this last one is where things get a little tricky because it is going to push me forward as soon as I put it in, but that is fine. I think if we hold shift, yeah, no, it's holding shift was not going to save us there. That's fine. That does seem to work. We are going to have to get in there and fill that last gap in. For now, we can take out the upgrades here. That's going to limit the range of this fan and allow us to get some work done. And we can always just drop them back in right at the end. So we'll fill that in like so. For the dreadful egg, we can purchase that from the shop right at the bottom here. that is this one. Turns dirt into dreadful dirt. There are other ways of getting it. I'm pretty sure that you have to make, there's like chicken feed, which is this stuff. If you make GM chicken feed, cursed, then you can feed that to a chicken and it will produce an egg. We might do it this way to save on C-Bucks. It does require fluid buckets of XP. However, I'm pretty sure that we can get those utilizing the vacuum hopper, this guy, the absorption hopper, even, which is what we're going to have to use, because by default, we are going to run into an issue where the mobs will move over here, they'll get killed by the Mop Mesher, but then they just drop their items on the ground. We need a way to collect those items and transfer them to the respective storage drawer for that mob drop. For that, that's where the absorption hopper comes in, because this can pick up any item that's dropped within a 7x7x7 area around the absorption hopper, including XP orbs. Now to make this, we need 3 obsidian, 1 regular hopper, and then 1 eye of ender. The only thing we're missing here, of course, is that eye of ender, and for that, we need 50 millibuckets of molten blaze with 1 ender pearl. Now, we don't have an ender pearl, unfortunately. However, we do have C-Bucks, and as per usual, we can go ahead and invest those C-Bucks, if we do a quick reset here, into 1 more ender pearl, which I think is going to be a worthwhile investment here because we need the absorption hopper. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to collect the mob drops. And so now all we have to do is grab some blaze powder. And much like earlier in the stream, we can also grab one of our basic fluid tanks. If memory serves me right, I think it was 20 millibuckets per blaze powder. Yeah, so we need to put 3 in here, which unfortunately is an awkward number. But once we have that in the tank, we can take it over to our smeltery, drop it into the drain, put down an ender pearl like so, and then extract that molten blaze over the ender pearl to make our very first eye of ender. So once we have that eye of ender, boom and boom, we get the absorption hopper. So I'm thinking what we'll probably do here is put down the blaze spawner first, the blaze spawner we have in this cardboard box here. We'll then, of course, use this absorption hopper. For now, we'll put it like maybe right about there. I might end up moving that down to the floor potentially so we can pump out of it more easily because, again, we are going to want to pump that stuff around into the storage drawers. Although, to be fair, we just have to pump it to the drawer controller, which is right there. But we'll have the blaze spawner running on its own. And then once we have 4 buckets worth of XP, then we can look at making the GM chicken feed and using that to get a dreadful egg. So real quick, before I do that, let me go ahead and fill the outer area of that sphere with water, just to make sure the blazes spawn only in the areas we want them to spawn in. Twitch chat has pointed out that the blaze spawner can spawn blazes within a 9x9 area. This is a 7x7 area, and the walls here count as the 9th block, so we don't need to fill the outer areas with water, like I mentioned before. Instead, all we have to do here is drop down the cardboard box, I guess right about there. My logic here is that we want mobs like zombies and creepers to still be able to be pushed under the spawner, like this. It's possible that an enderman gets stuck here because it's 3 tall, but I think the enderman usually move more than other mobs, so I think eventually the enderman will get stuck, and I think it's a low chance that an enderman gets stuck, you know, behind this spawner here. But yeah, I think essentially, chat, if we just go ahead and take this cardboard box off, and then fill in this wall over here, we should be pretty much good to go. We do need to drop a redstone block, actually, underneath that Mop Mesher to bring it online. And we also, actually, now that I think about it, do also need to re-add the upgrades to this. So that does work. We do, of course, run into a slight problem now that the blazes are here with us. That was a close call, maybe closer than was necessary. We are also getting some passive mob spawns there, which is interesting as well. You'll see we are getting buckets here, which is good. Buckets of XP, that is. Let's temporarily throw a tank down. We do have to disable bucket mode, which is N. There we go. Then we can place that down. And in here, we can set down to fluid, at which point that begins exporting all of that liquid XP. We've already got 1.5 buckets worth there. So we're at almost 3 buckets worth of liquid XP there. Let's have a look at what else we need here for the chicken feed. So to get the GM chicken feed here, the cursed chicken feed, the only thing we're missing here is gunpowder. We have a bone, we have a spider eye, we have a seed of some description, and we have rotten flesh. And also, of course, we're on our way to getting the fluid XP buckets. The only thing we're missing is gunpowder. Thankfully, we can make gunpowder using niter dust that we're getting from sifting sand, along with sulfur and charcoal. Sulfur we're getting from sifting gravel, and I think we're basically good to go there. Nice. So yeah, the only thing we're missing here is 4 buckets of liquid XP. And so really, we just need to craft up 3 more buckets here, and then wait until we have 4 buckets worth over here. So I'll take the 2 that we do have. Those are the correct buckets, which is perfect. I was a little worried that those might be a different, it might be like a different kind of XP, but thankfully it is not. And so yeah, now we just wait. And there we go. We have 4 fluid XP buckets. So back over here, there's some GM chicken feed that is cursed. And so, although we did just get this chicken, we do now have hundreds of chicken eggs. And so I think we can probably fairly safely here. Let's get, oh, careful. Let's get down. Let's clear out a bit of airspace. And let's feed this trusty chicken here a little bit of GM chicken feed. So if I do this, we get a cursed egg. A rotten egg, even. We did have to sacrifice a chicken in the process, which is unfortunate. However, it was for the greater good. And so now back here, what we should be able to do is kind of crack our way back into here. And I don't know if we're going to get this glass back. We do, which is very nice indeed. But now basically all we need to do is kind of build our way over. Again, we want to make sure that the blazes don't get out. I don't think there's much of a way that we can stop that, unfortunately. All we can really do is try and make our way over to here, right-click in the middle, and that makes the cursed earth, and instantly we are getting significantly more mob spawns, as you can see. We got a slime in there, we got an enderman. I would like to block up that system. Unfortunately, I have kind of screwed it a little bit here by putting them blocks down, because now the mobs are not landing on the grinder. But that was incredibly fast. I was not expecting such a quick influx of mobs there. I wonder if I can fight fire with fire here. If I make yet another fan. And grab a lever. Can I do something like this? And this? To try and push them back? I totally can. Okay, cool. I'm thinking then we can maybe get away with putting back down some of the tinted glass here. And there we go. There is still one block there that I would like to remove if possible. And I think it is possible. I think we can probably reach it from here. We totally can. Okay, boom. And there we go. We've done it, chat. So we have our new spawner up and running. You can see we're getting the liquid XP much, much faster now. It has been recommended to me that we can get a jumbo tank. This thing that can hold up to 1 million millibuckets, which is 1,024 buckets worth of any fluid. To make this, it's 4 iron and 4 singularity tanks. These are made from glass and iron. So we do now have 2,000 sand. We've gone from having 0 to having a full draw with the new Igneous Extruder up on the surface. If we just quickly throw some of that sand in over here, we should start to get glass fairly quickly and can hopefully make this jumbo tank quite fast. At that point, we're going to increase our capacity from the 14 buckets that this tank can hold up to 1,024 buckets with the jumbo tank here. And yeah, we're now starting to get other items as well. As you can see, our Absorption Hopper here is filling up with resources very quickly. I think one of the first things we're going to want to do at the start of the next stream is look at filtering that, because there are certain items in there that we're not going to want to keep. Things like leather pants, for example, are things that we're definitely going to want to get rid of. And there are other things like blaze rods, slime, bone, gunpowder, rotten flesh, etc. that we're going to want to store in their own respective storage drawers for future use. But essentially, now that we have these blaze rods, we can both craft them down. We can also, I believe, pulverize them to get 5 and also a little bit of extra sulfur as well. And so when we come back in the next stream, I think it's quite possible that we can begin work on the compact machine section up here. We can get ourselves a field projector, we can get a personal shrinking device, and if we wanted to, we could also look at making some compact machines as well. I have noticed in this mod pack that it's not just compact machines that require the field projector. Some recipes have been tweaked to require the field projector. If I temporarily reduce my GUI scale here to something like 5, you could see that, for example, this mob cage here requires the miniaturization field projector, as does a golden apple, an enchanted golden apple, as well as these guys, the pedestal upgrades. And so really, if we want to get into the pedestal mod, which I've been told is going to be very useful if we want to start work on mystical agriculture, which is all the way back over here. If we want to start working on being able to farm our resources, apparently those pedestals and pedestal upgrades are going to come in quite useful. So a bunch of stuff still for us to work on going forward. But for now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream just as soon as I get this singularity tank. I almost forgot there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jumbo. Tank. Boom. And boom. Nice. So that's going to fill up with up to 1,024 buckets worth of XP. But for now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there.